Have you ever felt completely alone, even when you're surrounded by people? Ever noticed your life slipping into a blur of empty days, trapped in a routine that slowly drains your dreams away? Now imagine if, out of nowhere, in a single unexpected moment, a simple encounter could change everything, revealing a purpose you never even knew existed. This is the story of Marcus Wellington, a billionaire CEO who had it all, except for what truly matters. But everything shifts when Emily, a mysterious 8-year-old girl, crosses his path with a request so simple, yet hiding secrets powerful enough to turn his world upside down. Who is this little girl? What invisible threat is she running from? And why did she choose Marcus to save her? If you're ready for a powerful journey about fate, healing, and the kind of human connection that can change lives forever, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single moment of this surprising, emotional, and deeply inspiring story. The buzz of a Manhattan cafe was just background noise, but not enough to muffle the tiny voice that broke through Marcus Wellington's usual silence. "Can you take me home, sir?" The question, coming from a little girl with eyes as wide as the world, froze the air around the billionaire CEO. A man made of ice and numbers, Marcus felt an unexpected tremble, a crack in his carefully built armor of indifference. His eyes, trained to read financial statements, now struggled to make sense of a child's desperate plea. Emily, just 8 years old and wrapped in a worn-out coat, looked like a mirage against the cafe's polished luxury. The contrast was jarring. The whole scene felt like something straight out of a movie, and it drew curious glances from nearby tables. Marcus hesitated, mind calculating the risks and benefits, but her gaze, a haunting mix of innocence and quiet desperation, completely disarmed him. It was like time stood still, and the universe had chosen that very moment for this unlikely meeting to happen. The air inside the cafe felt thin, heavy with the tension that had settled around them. Marcus, still trying to process Emily's unexpected request, felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The little girl, her voice trembling, began to reveal the truth behind her escape. The orphanage, her brother Tommy, and the looming threat of separation. Every word was like a blow to the wall of cynicism Marcus had spent years building, exposing a raw vulnerability he thought he'd buried beneath layers of success and isolation. Her pain was real, and for a brief moment he saw himself in her helplessness. Emily described the orphanage like a prison, a place where kids weren't treated like souls, but like numbers. The idea of being torn away from her younger brother Tommy was a constant torment, a nightmare that drove her to ask a complete stranger for help. With each sentence, Marcus could see Tommy taking shape in his mind, small, fragile, dependent, and something stirred inside him, an empathy he didn't know he still had. This wasn't about numbers or markets anymore. It was a deeply human dilemma, staring him right in the face. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared at the cafe's entrance, and Marcus's heart skipped a beat. Helena Volkov, his former business partner, the woman he betrayed years ago, stood there, her icy eyes locked on Emily. She hinted at a secret, one that tied the girl to both of them, a secret powerful enough to destroy everything. Marcus's carefully buried past was crashing back into his present, and Emily, without knowing it, had become the center of this tangled web of lies and betrayal. The cafe, once a quiet refuge, had turned into the stage for a dangerous drama. Then came a deafening bang. Glass shattered, screams erupted, and chaos exploded inside the cafe. A surprise attack, swift and brutal, turned the cozy space into a war zone. Instinct took over. Marcus pulled Emily close, using his own body as a shield. Adrenaline surged through his veins, and the need to protect this girl overtook every other thought. Who was after Emily? And what did she know that was worth this kind of daylight violence? Panic spread like wildfire. Marcus, clutching Emily in his arms, searched desperately for a way out. The attackers, masked and methodical, had one target: the girl. Every move was calculated, every shot precise. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt the crushing weight of responsibility. This child's life depended on him. He, the man who avoided connections at all costs, now found himself at the center of a relentless chase, trying to protect a little girl, while ghosts from his past rose to the surface. Despite the fear, Emily clung to Marcus, her tiny fingers gripping his shirt. She trusted him, this stranger, more than any adult she'd ever known at the orphanage. That kind of trust, pure and unwavering, felt both heavy and motivating. Marcus knew he had to understand what was going on. He had to uncover the truth behind this hunt, before it was too late. Her life, and maybe his own, depended on it. From a distance, Helena watched the chaos unfold with a cold smile. Her eyes, once fixed on Emily, now turned to Marcus with a twisted mix of contempt and satisfaction. She knew he couldn't outrun his past. And the girl, she was the key to her revenge. The game had begun, and Helena was the one setting the rules. Marcus had no idea he was stepping into a maze of secrets and danger where every step could be fatal. Sirens began to wail in the distance, but Marcus knew better than to wait for the police. These weren't random criminals, they were professionals. Emily's safety came first. He had to get her out of there, to somewhere safe, away from Helena and whoever else was behind the attack. Time was his enemy now. He looked down at Emily, her eyes wide, searching his face for answers, for safety. What did Emily know? Why was she so important to Helena? And more importantly, could Marcus protect her from a world determined to crush her? The questions echoed in his mind as he scouted a way out, some path that could lead them away from this nightmare. Danger was closing in fast, and the fate of both Emily and Tommy now rested entirely in his hands. Marcus Wellington. His name echoed through the halls of Wall Street, a symbol of power and cold ambition. He had built a tech empire on algorithms and razor-sharp decisions, but the price was steep: human connection. His life had become an endless loop of meetings, charts, and profits, a cycle that drained all warmth and feeling. Betraying Helena all those years ago hadn't just been a business move. It had been a wound to his soul, one that sealed him off from anything real. He remembered the sleepless nights, the obsession with building something massive, the belief that material success would fill the void inside him. But the emptiness stayed, a constant echo in his silent mansion. Friends, family, just abstract concepts replaced by corporate contacts and a small army of employees. Marcus had built a fortress to keep the pain out, but it had trapped him in loneliness. He was the king of his castle, but a king without subjects, without love. Then came Emily. That tiny figure in his cafe, with those pleading eyes, shattered the walls he'd spent a lifetime constructing. She wasn't asking for money or favors. She was asking for a home, a chance. And somehow, she sparked something inside him. A flicker of empathy, a sliver of humanity he thought he'd lost forever. Her presence was uncomfortable, a glitch in his meticulously planned life, but also a promise of something different, something real. "Why did you ask me for help, Emily?" Marcus finally asked, his voice softer than he expected. She was curled up in the back seat of his armored car and looked at him with disarming honesty. "You seemed different, not like the others, and I needed someone strong." Her words, simple, direct, hit him like a lightning bolt. Strong. Yeah. He was strong, but the kind of strength that built walls, not bridges. She saw something else, something he'd forgotten he had. He decided to look into her past, not out of duty, but out of a curiosity that surprised him. It felt like purpose, something beyond earnings and takeovers. He found himself asking questions, digging into details, something he rarely did outside the boardroom. The more he uncovered about Emily's difficult life, the more he felt the need to protect her, to offer her the kind of safety he'd never known. Back at the cafe, Sarah, the owner, watched Marcus and Emily with a gaze that went beyond simple interest. Her eyes were deep, almost knowing, like they held stories she didn't speak out loud. "She's special, isn't she?" Sarah said as Marcus paid the bill. "Some people come into our lives to remind us what really matters." Marcus glanced at her, curious. "You seem to know a lot about that." Sarah smiled, a slow, mysterious smile. "Life teaches you things, Marcus. And sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places." She handed him a napkin with a phone number scribbled on it. "If you ever need help, the kind money can't buy, call me." A chill ran down Marcus's spine. Who was Sarah, really? And why did she seem to know more than she was letting on? Her offer felt like a riddle, but also like a lifeline in a world that had suddenly become so dangerous. He tucked the napkin into his coat pocket, his mind spinning with her words. Marcus's life, once so predictable and controlled, was now unraveling into something entirely new. A tangled plot filled with twists and unexpected characters. Emily was the catalyst, the tiny key opening doors to a world of feelings and threats he'd long tried to avoid, and now he wondered if he was ready for the journey ahead. What did Sarah really know about Emily, and what was coming? And how would Marcus, the cold, calculating CEO, navigate a world where empathy and emotion were the new currency? The fate of Emily and Tommy, and maybe his own, depended on the answers he was about to find. The game had just begun, and for the first time in years, Marcus wasn't holding all the cards. What kind of man would he become, now that he was finally rediscovering his own humanity? Marcus's mansion, once a sanctuary of silence and order, had become the stage for quiet upheavals. The arrival of Emily, a mysterious orphaned child, sparked a wave of murmurs among his staff. "Mr. Wellington, this could cause a scandal. The press—" Clara, his public relations advisor, spoke in a hushed but worried tone. Marcus cut her off, voice firm. "My personal life is none of the media's business, Clara, and Emily isn't a scandal. She's a guest." Still, he knew the resistance was real. The image of the untouchable CEO was beginning to crack. Curious glances from employees and whispers echoing down the hallways created an atmosphere of discomfort. Emily, on the other hand, felt the weight of her new surroundings. The mansion's grand spaces, its emptiness, and above all the absence of Tommy, made her shrink into corners, her eyes wide, watchful, like a frightened animal. Marcus watched helplessly, realizing that protecting her wasn't just about physical safety. It was about emotional shelter, too. Emily's nights were haunted by nightmares, muffled screams, twisted images of a man in a suit, and one word that repeated like a mantra: code. Marcus tried to comfort her, but she would shut down, her eyes wide with fear. "What code, Emily?" he would ask softly. She only shook her head, lips sealed by terror. The mystery deepened, and Marcus began to sense that there was far more to this little girl than he ever imagined. Meanwhile, Helena Volkov was already in motion. Her network of contacts and thirst for revenge powered every step. "Find the girl. She has something that belongs to me," she told her men, voice cold and deliberate. She knew Emily held the key to unlocking an AI algorithm developed by her father, an algorithm that could change the world, and Helena was determined to own it. The pressure on Marcus was mounting. His team, so used to his cold, business-only demeanor, couldn't understand his sudden concern for a child. "Sir, this is an unnecessary risk to the company," his head of security said, his tone edged with unease. Marcus simply met his gaze, his resolve unwavering. "My top priority now is Emily's safety. Do whatever it takes. Emily was doing her best to adjust to her new reality, but the absence of Tommy was an open wound. "I miss him, Marcus," she whispered, eyes welling up. "He's all alone." The guilt gnawed at Marcus. He'd promised to protect them, but between the orphanage bureaucracy and Helena's looming threat, everything felt out of reach. He felt stuck, like the system was strangling his ability to act. That mysterious code from Emily's dreams became Marcus's obsession. He combed through documents, made dozens of calls, searching for a clue. Was it a password? A program? Something that tied her to her father, and by extension, to Helena. The more he tried and failed, the more powerless he felt. He needed answers, fast. Helena, meanwhile, was getting closer. Her informants kept her updated on Marcus's every move. She knew Emily was vulnerable, and that the code was the final piece of her puzzle. "Soon," she whispered, a cruel smile curling on her lips. "The algorithm will be mine." The trap was nearly set, and Marcus, unaware, was walking right into it. What was this code Emily was guarding so fiercely, and how would Helena use it to corner both Marcus and the little girl? The game of cat and mouse had only just begun, and with every step, the danger grew more real. Would Marcus uncover the truth in time to save Emily and her brother? Marcus's decision to return Emily to the orphanage weighed heavily on him. It was the logical choice, the safest move, the one that minimized damage to his reputation and his business. But for the first time in a long time, logic felt cold, empty. "Emily, I have to take you back. It's for your safety," he said, his voice tight with emotion. She looked at him with tear-filled eyes, desperate and crushed. "No, Marcus, please, Tommy, he's not safe there." Her plea hit Marcus like a punch to the gut, crumbling what was left of his resolve. He tried to reason with her, to explain the dangers and complexities of the situation. But Emily's words cut deeper. "They're going to separate us. I promised Daddy I'd protect Tommy." Her voice, trembling but strong, was a lifeline to something he'd forgotten, his own humanity. Marcus found himself torn between what was safe and what was right. "What's happening to Tommy?" Marcus asked, his voice firmer now. Between sobs, Emily explained that the orphanage's director, an outwardly respectable man, had been acting strangely, asking questions about her father, about something he called the inheritance. Marcus's gut twisted. Something didn't feel right. He confronted the director, a man with a polished smile and evasive eyes. "Mr. Wellington, Emily is a troubled child. She makes things up." His voice oozed false charm, but Marcus wasn't buying it. "Where's Tommy? Why isn't he with his sister?" His questions were sharp and direct, but the man dodged them, offering vague and contradictory replies. Marcus's instincts screamed something was very wrong. That's when Sarah, the cafe owner, appeared, her calm presence suddenly urgent. "Marcus, we need to talk. Now." She pulled him aside, her eyes grave. "The orphanage director is working with Helena. He's trafficking children through the black market." The revelation hit Marcus like a thunderclap. Horror, disgust, rage, all at once. "There's more," Sarah added, lowering her voice. "Helena's not working alone. She's got mercenaries, dangerous people. I know because I used to be on the other side." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "You?" She nodded, locking eyes with him. "Former CIA. I left when I realized the system was rotten. But I still have contacts. And I know how this world works." Her confession was a shock, but also a light in the darkness. She was the missing piece, the unexpected ally. "Can we really protect them on our own?" Marcus asked, his voice rough with emotion. Sarah took his hand, a gesture of support that caught him off guard. "We're not alone, Marcus. We've got each other, and we've got Emily. She's stronger than you think." Marcus's plan to return Emily to the orphanage fell apart. There was no way he could hand her back to those wolves. Her safety, and Tommy's, became his only priority, and he would do whatever it took to protect them. The road ahead would be long and dangerous, but Marcus was no longer alone. Sarah, the ex-CIA agent, was by his side, and Emily, the little girl who broke down his walls, was his reason. Could Marcus and Sarah rescue Tommy and protect Emily from Helena's grip? The web of lies was tightening, and time was running out. What future awaited this unlikely alliance? The alliance between Marcus and Sarah was blooming in the middle of chaos. What started as a necessity had grown into something deeper, a quiet spark of romance that lit up the darkest corners of Marcus's life. The late-night talks, the rescue plans, the shared glances, all of it wove a thread of emotion he never imagined he'd feel again. "You're not who they say you are," Sarah whispered one night as they watched Emily sleep peacefully. "You're not the cold CEO the media makes you out to be." Marcus smiled, a real unguarded smile, one that rarely appeared on his face. "And you, Sarah, you're so much more than a coffee shop owner, a former CIA agent. Who would have guessed?" Her laughter filled the room, light and contagious. Day by day, they were discovering each other, peeling back layers life had forced them to hide. Trust blossomed between them, solid and steady, a foundation for what was to come. They weren't just partners anymore. They were a team, and that bond was undeniable. Meanwhile, Emily was starting to open up to Marcus. She spoke freely about her father, a brilliant, eccentric scientist. "Daddy used to say the world was one big puzzle," she told him, "and all we had to do was find the right pieces to put it together." Her memories were a balm to Marcus's soul, revealing sides of Emily he hadn't seen before. She trusted him, and that trust was the most precious thing he'd ever been given. He was working on something big, Marcus, something that could change the world, Emily said one evening, her eyes sparkling. An algorithm. He called it the code of life. Marcus felt a chill run through him. The same code from her nightmares, the same one Helena was so desperate to find. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together. Emily's father wasn't just a scientist. He was a genius, and he'd created something priceless, something that could either save lives or destroy them. Helena, relentless and well-informed, finally uncovered the truth. The AI algorithm, memorized by Emily, was the key to the power she craved. "So the little girls are walking safe," she sneered, her voice dripping with cruelty. "How ironic. The father builds it, the daughter holds it, and I, Helena Volkov, will reap the rewards." The information was gold, and she knew exactly how to use it to break the girl. "What are you going to do with it, Helena?" one of her men asked, hesitant. "I'm going to control the world, you idiot," she snapped. "And little Emily, she'll be my puppet. She doesn't have a choice." Her plan was vile, and Emily and Tommy's lives were hanging by a thread. The danger was more real than ever, and time was closing in. Marcus and Sarah could feel the pressure building. Every day, Helena's web pulled tighter. "We can't let her use it for evil, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice heavy with concern. "Emily's father created something incredible. It could be a blessing or a curse. Depends on who holds it." The weight of responsibility bore down on them, but so did their resolve. Emily, still unaware of the full extent of the threat, continued to dream about a future with Tommy, a future where they'd be safe and together again. But Helena's shadow loomed ever larger. Her father's legacy had become a burden, a weapon that could be turned against her. Her innocence was about to be tested, and her trust in Marcus and Sarah was her only hope. How would Helena use this information to manipulate Emily? And could Marcus and Sarah, armed with nothing but a fragile alliance, protect the girl and the algorithm from falling into the wrong hands? The next move would be critical, and the future of this unlikely family was hanging in the balance. Then the phone rang. Helena's voice, cold and sharp as steel, cut through the air. "Emily, darling, I have a surprise for you. Your brother Tommy is with me." Emily froze. The fear she'd tried to hide, the anxiety that gnawed at her, came crashing down in a single sentence. Marcus, standing beside her, felt her whole body tense. "What does she want?" he asked, voice low and urgent. "The algorithm," Emily whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. "She wants Daddy's code." The blackmail was brutal and direct. Helena demanded the algorithm in exchange for Tommy's life. Marcus's jaw tightened as rage surged inside him. "We're not giving in to her," he said, his voice like iron. "We're going to get Tommy back." Sarah, calling on her experience with covert operations, began to strategize. Marcus's mansion became their command center. Maps, floor plans, and contingency routes now covered the walls. Every whisper was a part of the plan. But Emily had a secret, one she'd kept hidden even from them. I changed the code," she admitted softly. Marcus and Sarah turned to her in shock. "What do you mean, Emily?" Sarah asked, stunned. "I changed it, in my head, so no one could use it to hurt people. I'm the only one who knows the real version." The revelation changed everything. It gave them a fighting chance, a twist no one saw coming. But their hope didn't last long. Marcus's phone buzzed, an anonymous message. Their location had been compromised. "We have a mole," Sarah said, her voice tight with dread. Marcus's stomach dropped. Someone from his own team, someone he trusted, had betrayed them, and Helena's trap was now snapping shut. "Who?" Marcus growled. "It doesn't matter," Sarah said quickly. "Not now. We need to go. They're coming." Time was the enemy. Every second, the threat drew closer. The mansion, once a safe haven, was now a cage. The betrayal cut deep, but survival came first. Emily and Tommy had to be protected, no matter what. Despite her fear, Emily showed surprising bravery. "I can help," she said, eyes locked on Marcus. "I know how to throw them off." Her intelligence became their secret weapon, and Marcus looked at her with awe. This little girl, this girl he met by chance, was now at the heart of the fight. Tommy's rescue became a race against time. Every step they took was a gamble, every decision, life or death. The betrayal reminded them that danger could come from anywhere, even the people closest to them. Trust had been broken, and that wound ran deep. Across town, Helena smiled into her phone. "They've got nowhere to run. The algorithm will be mine." She underestimated Emily's brilliance. She underestimated Marcus's fire, and she underestimated Sarah's experience. But the trap was set. The tension was unbearable. The confrontation was coming. Who had betrayed Marcus, and how would they escape Helena's tightening grip? With every tick of the clock, the stakes got higher, and hope grew thinner. Would Emily hand over the algorithm to save her brother? Or would her cleverness be the very key that set them all free? The abandoned warehouse, lit only by stray beams of light filtering through the cracks, was the battlefield. Emily, braver than any child her age should have to be, used her mind like a weapon. "He's over there!" she shouted, pointing to a dark corner. Tommy, hidden behind stacked crates, watched his sister with wide-eyed admiration. Her brain, a labyrinth of codes and strategies, was her greatest strength, and she wielded it like a master. Meanwhile, Marcus and Sarah stormed the warehouse, each with their own mission. Marcus fought with the rage of a lion, taking on Helena's mercenaries with precise, calculated strikes. Every blow was a release, a way of confronting the guilt he carried, for betraying Helena, for becoming the cold, distant man he once was. This battle wasn't just physical, it was personal. It was his reckoning. Sarah, agile and deadly, moved like a shadow. She disarmed enemies in silence, eyes locked on every threat. Her years of battlefield experience turned her into a machine, but her heart beat for Emily and Tommy. They were her family now, unexpected as they were. With every mercenary she dropped, hope lit up a little brighter. High above, watching the chaos unfold, Helena burned with rage. "You betrayed me, Marcus. You took everything from me," she screamed. Marcus met her gaze, unwavering. "You destroyed yourself, Helena. I just showed the world who you really are." His words cut deep, truths she could never outrun. Down below, Emily faced an impossible choice: hand over the algorithm to save Tommy, or keep it hidden and risk losing him forever. Her mind faltered under the weight. "Emily, no!" Marcus called out, sensing her hesitation. "Don't give in!" His voice was a lifeline, a plea for her strength, her courage. Tommy, hearing the panic in his sister's voice, cried out, "Don't do it, Emily! Don't give it to her!" His tiny voice, filled with strength and love, echoed through the warehouse. It was all she needed. Emily looked around, at Marcus, at Sarah, at her little brother, and made her choice. She wouldn't give in. She would fight with her brain, her bravery, and her father's legacy. The battle raged. Marcus and Sarah fought side by side, each movement in sync. Their determination was unbreakable. Emily clutched Tommy tightly, scanning for a way out. It was a brutal journey, but with every step their bond grew stronger. Helena, watching her plans crumble, shrieked in fury. "You'll regret this," she screamed. But her threats were hollow, her power was slipping, and the tide was turning. This unlikely family was fighting for their freedom, for their future, for everything that mattered. Would Emily give up the algorithm to save Tommy, or would her genius be the key to saving them all? The answer was moments away. In the height of the battle, Sarah's voice rang out, low but clear. "I knew Emily's father," she said, eyes locked on Helena. "He was brilliant, a visionary, and I made him a promise. I swore I'd protect his daughter, no matter what." Her words echoed in the warehouse. Everything stopped. Marcus turned to her, stunned. Another piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. The web of connections ran far deeper than he'd ever imagined. The algorithm Helena craved wasn't just a tool of power, it was hope for humanity. "If used the right way, it could save millions," Sarah said. "But you, Helena, you want to sell it to criminals. You turn it into a weapon." Her truth hit like a thunderclap. Helena's greed was exposed. Her plan unraveled in front of her eyes. Emily, calm and clear, sprang into action. With trembling fingers, she typed furiously on a tablet Sarah had handed her. In seconds, Helena's prototype AI, being tested in a secret lab, was remotely shut down. A scream tore from Helena's throat. "No! What did you do, you little brat?" Her voice was a mix of disbelief and rage. Emily, standing tall, had just destroyed her entire plan. The shutdown triggered a chain reaction. Helena's mercenaries, dependent on the AI for coordination, were suddenly blind. Chaos erupted. Their advantage vanished in seconds. Marcus and Sarah seized the moment, moving swiftly and decisively. Hope, once so fragile, was now burning bright. Helena, face twisted with fury, tried to fight back, but it was too late. Her empire of control was collapsing. Emily's defiance, Sarah's revelation, Marcus's strength. They were tearing her down. "You'll never win!" Helena shouted at Emily, her voice cracking. "That algorithm is mine!" But Emily just smiled, a quiet, confident smile. "It's my father's legacy, and he never meant for it to be used to hurt people." Her words hit harder than any bullet. A final blow. One Helena would never recover from. The fight continued, but the momentum had shifted. Without AI support, Helena's men were no match. Marcus, Sarah, and Emily were winning. The battle was turning, and relief swept through the warehouse like a fresh wind. Helena, defeated and desperate, was restrained by Sarah. The hatred in her eyes had faded, replaced by fear. The power she craved was gone, and the child she had underestimated had become her downfall. The irony was bitter, and her defeat total. The game was over. Helena had lost. But what would she do next? Could she retaliate? And what lay ahead for Emily, Marcus, and Sarah, now that the algorithm was safe and the threat was gone? Victory was sweet, But their journey was far from over. What came next for the family that had defied the odds and rewritten their destiny? Marcus's corporate skyscraper, a symbol of power and success, became the stage for the final showdown. Helena, her face twisted in fury and desperation, had cornered them on the rooftop. "Where's the code, Emily?" she shouted, her voice echoing with raw rage. Emily, clutching Tommy's hand, stared Helena down. "You'll never have what doesn't belong to you, Helena." With a swift motion, Emily triggered a digital trap she had prepared in secret. Giant screens in the lobby, once displaying stock prices, now broadcast irrefutable evidence of Helena's crimes: money laundering, data trafficking, blackmail. Police units, alerted by Sarah, stormed the building. Chaos erupted. Emily's plan was brilliant, a digital checkmate that exposed the villain to the world. While officers closed in on Helena, Marcus and Sarah fought the last wave of her mercenaries. Marcus moved with surprising agility, disarming enemies with lethal precision. Sarah, drawing from years of combat, protected Emily and Tommy with fierce intensity. It was a deadly dance, good versus evil, where every move counted. "Run!" Marcus yelled to Emily and Tommy as he and Sarah held the line. Emily, holding Tommy tightly, bolted toward the emergency stairwell. Their hearts pounded in sync. Fear was real, but their will to stay together was stronger. They were a family, and they'd fight to stay one. Seeing her empire crumble, Helena made one last desperate move. She pulled a gun, aiming straight at Emily. "If I can't have the code, no one will," she screamed, but before she could fire, Sarah leapt into action, knocking the weapon from her hands. Marcus followed with a swift strike, pinning Helena to the ground. Her reign was over. A heavy silence fell, broken only by police sirens and rushed footsteps. Marcus and Sarah, exhausted but triumphant, rushed to Emily and Tommy. They embraced, tight, trembling, overwhelmed. They had made it. They had won, and their makeshift family was still whole. That skyscraper, once a monument to wealth, was now a monument to courage and love. Emily looked up at Marcus, eyes shining. "We did it, Marcus." Her voice was a whisper of victory. He smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes, a smile he hadn't shown in years. "Yes, Emily, we did it." Tommy, still shaken but safe, looked at Marcus and Sarah. "You're my heroes," he said. His words were healing, a reminder that every risk, every sacrifice had been worth it. Would this family survive after the storm? The answer, a resounding yes. But what did the future hold for them now that Helena's threat was gone and the truth about the algorithm had come to light? Their journey was only beginning. Back at Marcus's mansion, the air felt lighter, cleaner. The silence that once echoed his loneliness was now filled with laughter and chatter. Marcus, the once cold and calculating CEO, had changed. He was no longer just a businessman. He was a father, a protector, a man who had found purpose beyond profit. The mansion, once a fortress, was now a home, a refuge for Emily and Tommy. The adoption process was long and tangled, but with Sarah's help, Marcus pushed through every hurdle. Seeing Emily and Tommy's names legally changed brought him more joy than any billion-dollar deal. Instead of expanding his empire, Marcus built something greater, a legacy of love and hope. He founded a home for orphans, a safe place for kids like Emily and Tommy to find family and a future. It was his redemption, his new life's meaning. With danger behind them, Marcus and Sarah let the spark between them blossom into a deep, lasting love. Their late-night strategy sessions turned into candle-lit dinners. Laughter replaced war rooms. They were living proof that love can grow in the ruins of chaos, and that true connection is built in the fire of adversity. Their new life together was just beginning. Emily, now safe and loved, blossomed. Her sharp mind, once used for survival, was now free to learn and lead. She helped run the foundation, her ideas and empathy making her a natural-born leader. Tommy, now thriving, turned the mansion into his wonderland. Marcus's labs, once untouchable, were now his playground. He became a tech prodigy, following in the footsteps of the father he barely remembered. The foundation grew, and the story of Emily and Tommy became a beacon of hope for others. Marcus was no longer admired for his fortune, but for his heart. For his ability to change lives, he'd found real wealth. In smiles, in hugs, in love he never knew he needed. His transformation was complete, and Sarah stood beside him, the quiet strength behind it all. Her wisdom, her love, her ability to forgive made her the rock of this new family. She had found a partner in Marcus. Together, they were building a future built on kindness and compassion. The cold, lonely days of Marcus's past were now just distant memories. He laughed, he played, he loved. Life had given him a second chance, and he embraced it with all he had. The pain of the past, Helena's betrayal, had become the fuel for something beautiful. Emily and Tommy were finally allowed to be kids. They ran through the gardens, their laughter echoing through the halls. The orphanage, Helena's threats, all behind them now. The future was wide open, and they were ready to chase it. What impact would Marcus's foundation have on the future of children? The answer was clear, a life-changing one. A model of compassion and transformation, one child at a time. Emily and Tommy's legacy and their father's vision would live on. Years passed. The mansion, a cold symbol of isolation, pulsed with life and love. Emily, now a vibrant teenager, co-led the foundation with Marcus and Sarah, who had married in a quiet garden ceremony. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now sparkled with purpose. She carried the foundation's mission with pride. It was living proof that love could transform lives. Tommy, no longer the scared little boy, had grown into a tech genius. His projects at the foundation were groundbreaking, proof that with the right care any child could shine. He and Emily, bonded by love and loyalty, were the soul of the organization. Marcus and Sarah had found the happiness life had once denied them. Their love, born from hardship, was stronger than ever. They were living proof that the best things in life often rise from chaos. Family, once a distant dream, had become Marcus's greatest treasure. But like any great story, life had one last twist. A mysterious email arrived in Emily's inbox from an unknown sender. The message was short and chilling. Emily, your father is alive. He needs you. Her world, so full, so complete, suddenly cracked open. A new mystery, a new hope, a new challenge. Marcus and Sarah, when they heard the news, felt a mix of joy and dread. Their peaceful life was about to change again. But they were a family, and whatever came next, they'd face it together. Emily, now wiser and stronger, knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she wasn't alone. She had Marcus, she had Sarah, she had Tommy. She had a family that had already conquered the impossible. Her father's algorithm was no longer just code. It was a bridge to her past, a key to her future. She was ready to follow the truth, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The video you just watched is a story of resilience, love, and second chances. We witnessed how a brave little girl changed the life of a powerful CEO, and how, together with Sarah, they built a family and a legacy of hope. Emily and Tommy's story reminds us that no matter how broken life may seem, there's always a way to start again. Have you ever helped someone, or been helped when you needed it most? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more inspiring stories like this one. In the next video, we'll explore the hidden power of technology and how it can shape the future. Stay tuned. Will this family face a new adventure? Absolutely. The mystery of Emily's father, the search for answers, and the promise of another thrilling journey awaits. What does fate have in store? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, they're ready for whatever comes next.